Welcome to Let's Get Metaphysical, the show that stretches you beyond your five senses. When you are looking for your next step on the path into the unseen, we've got you covered. Join epic adventure seekers and level up your game with your host, reality magician Ali BIerman.
You know what it's like to have fun because you're following nudges every day, feelings that you can't explain. Well, today we're talking again with Jane Freund, who on our last visit just took us in all kinds of directions. And today we're going to be talking about some fun stuff. And you definitely want to stick with us to the end. And before I jump in, here's something special for you. You are my epic adventure seekers. And if you enjoy our show and you want something special, you want to spend some extra time with me, like in not a one-on-one, but a room where we all gather together and just have an informal chat, you can support the show over at Patreon. And the link for that will be in the show notes. And I'm just calling it Come Let's Talk. Now, I was supposed to do this interview with Jane last week, but there's something very, very special for Jane at this particular time of year. In the universe, the nudges, the invisible forces that we talk about caused us to need to reschedule for today. And that brings us into the time frame that's special for Jane. And the link for her first show is in the show notes, so you can find out more about what's special. And those of you who follow me may experience I have frequent technical difficulties, especially with my computer. Well, I wasn't able to get any really great results. I was having trouble with the keyboard, and I lost some extremely important information because I didn't know it wasn't working. So I took out an older keyboard that I had originally put away because it wasn't working right. The universe told me, take out the other keyboard today. I did. I put it in place of the other one that wasn't working. Everything worked perfectly. And honestly, I attribute that in part to Jane's beautiful energy, because we're impacted by everybody's energy in our environment and we're impacting them. So welcome, Jane, to our special edition show today.
Thank you, Ali. And it's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me again. I just love getting together with you, and I love how our energies connect.
I do too. We had so much fun last time. I've been can't hardly wait for today. So would you share 5 facts that most people don't know about you?
Okay, let's see. Well, the first one I thought of is I'm a math geek by nature. I love math. I have since I was a little kid. My first toy was an abacus. And yeah. And then my mom gave me an adding machine to play with. And I was in total, awe. I was both a mathlete and an athlete growing up.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, I describe it this way. I was a state champion in linear equations. We called them simultaneous equations back then, and quadratic equations, which, that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one, the second one, is also related to math. I'm having a little fun here technically too.
I see.
And that is when I go to the grocery store, I will challenge myself to calculate the price per ounce or the price per pound to get the better deal. And if I'm having an off day, I'll actually look at the tags and figure those out. Let them figure me out. But got to keep the math going, right?
Yeah.
So that's one fact most people don't know about me. Another one would be that my elbows don't straighten. I was born that way. As the doctor described it when they figured it out when I was about 12, my mortar is bigger than my pestle in each of my elbows. And I have a 36-degree loss in the left arm and a 45-degree loss in the right arm. And the biggest challenges it's ever given me is I couldn't hit the outside pitch in softball. I couldn't play volleyball because, you rely on your arms to straighten to send it up, return the ball. And it would hit at an angle and go 84 different places, 84 different ways. And I can't button a dress or zip a dress up behind me.
Before we started recording, we were mentioning something about, I asked you about the background that you have. Mm-hmm. So could you share with us why that background's important or why you chose it?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So last month, I turned 60. And, I ran into a childhood friend in the grocery store the other day, and we were talking about the fact that, turning 40 was something, 50, took that into, but there was something different about being 60. And what happened for me was I suddenly became aware of the bigger picture and got excited and humbled by it. And this background behind me represents two things. One is I try to learn something new every day. And in this case, I learned how to create get a background up on Zoom on my phone. So I thought that was pretty cool. But this particular background represents the fact that I am one person on one planet in one solar system in one of billions of galaxies in one universe. And that is both awe-inspiring and humbling. And it's awe-inspiring, and I go, wow, I got so much to learn. I'll go outside. In fact, I did it this morning. I went outside and I looked up, and there's the sun that's been around billions of years, and there's the sky, and there's that big old tree over there. I wonder what was going on in the world when that tree was planted or started growing. And then I see the birds and the clouds and just so much, and it's just so cool to think about.
Yeah,
it's like it's not like it is. I've developed this great new appreciation for how we're all connected. And it's I have a friend who doesn't like this word, but it's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm laughing because I'm aware that you have, I think it's your excitement at everything that you're sharing with us, because there's your device has been having some very interesting things happening. I can't believe how many things we have in common. I always love math. I always love looking at things when my kids were little, and this was before the days of credit cards. And we go shopping in the store, so I'd have cash. And I think it only happened once. I had to put something back. I always knew exactly what my grocery cart full was going to come to within pennies. And it's not like I was figuring it all out. The universe was guiding me to what I was picking up. So yeah, I've always liked math. I never got it to the level you did, but I have a Chinese abacus. It's right above my window where I'm sitting. So where it's 5 discs, and then there are 2 above it. So I remember reading about how to use it, and it's like, okay, but I don't think I'll be doing that.
Okay, so I tutor students because I love to teach, and I don't want to grade papers anymore. And I was working on a math with this, I think she's about 11 or 12-year-old. And I was trying to teach her the concept of per unit cost or price. And I referred to penny candy. And she had no idea what penny candy was, because candy isn't that cheap in the store anymore. So I had to explain that idea to her. And in addition, I was telling her about walking to Murphy's Market with my two younger brothers when we were kids to buy penny candy. And I realized that was 50 years ago.
Well, you have a lot of fun experiences with your students.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really do. It's amazing what they teach me. It's amazing. It's about listening, taking the time to listen to kids. Well, listen to anyone.
Mm.
And kids in particular. I've said this to many a friend. I wouldn't want to be raising a teenager, particularly in this current environment. And part of that has to do with it's tough being a kid, and they just need people to listen to them and ask them questions. I grew up in a family that included like a congressman, a couple legislators. We were a prominent family and where I grew up. And I got an education pretty quickly about the adults who were being nice to me because they wanted to get to my family, have an in politically. And I swore I would never be that kind of adult, that I would listen to children simply to listen and to hear what they say. And quite frankly, they're pretty funny. They're pretty funny. I have one kid that I work with who we work on Google Meet, and we were doing something, and I said, "Oh, where did I put that? I can't find it." And he didn't even miss a beat, Allie, and he starts singing, Forgetful Jane, Forgetful Jane. I wonder how she got that nickname." And he was like 9. And I just lost it. I just put my head down and laughed. And we still joke about it. We still joke about it. And it's been like 2 years or something year and a half since he did that. And so it's pretty fun to hear them. It's to listen to them, ask them questions, ask them what they think about stuff, whatever it might be, and they'll tell you. I love listening to them. I love hearing their perspectives. I love problem solving with them or sharing things. I'm thinking right now about a student I work with who is in high school, and his goal is to have an auto mechanic shop. He's already figured that out, that's what he wants to do. And I was talking to a friend who works in like a technical college or something, and we were talking about trends. And she said, well, that moving forward, mechanics who can work on electric cars are going to be more needed. And so I was able to share that with this student and say, hey, as you're looking forward, you might consider that. I mean, I jokingly call myself Farmer Freund because I plant seeds.
I also plant seeds, and I know they'll sprout when the timing's right. I just think it's nutsy when adults dismiss kids because they see a whole bigger world, and we have these myopic blinders, and we can't see everything that they see, and to not listen, and like you said, asking questions. and building a business. That's the biggest thing that my mentors say is you gotta ask questions. Don't assume you know.
Well, because you know what assume means, right? It makes an ass out of you and me.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and the another key is when you ask them questions, ask them open-ended questions.
Yes.
Don't one of the things that these kids have done for me or continue to do for me is, like, I've got kids who recommend really good books, and we have great discussions about books they're reading. And that's particularly fascinating in this era of banned books or banning books.
I didn't know that was happening.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. I mean, and I have a simple belief about that. If you don't like a book, don't read it.
Yeah.
Or here's another idea: read it and get your thinking challenged.
I think the people who get to work with you have such an amazing gift, but it's a mutual gift. It's a real win-win.
Yeah. Learn something from every person I interact with. And it's because I have that mindset. I I I remember my youngest brother Paul. I think he was in about second grade, and he learned how to macrame. And it in school, he might have been a little older, and he taught the rest of us how to macrame. And it was just like, okay, he knows how to do it. Doesn't matter he's younger, you know, he knows how to do it, and he teaches us, you know,
Yeah.
and you just got to be willing to learn. So,
One of my early LLCs was named We Are at Once Teacher and Student. Because, like you said, I believe every interaction doesn't even have to be words exchanged. We have something to share that benefits the other person and vice versa. But if you don't have that attitude, you're missing out on a lot.
oh yeah. Well, I I think about, like, so when I go into the grocery store, and let me preface this with, I had a mother who knew all the clerks by name at the Albertsons we would go to growing up. And when mom passed and I went home for the funeral, um, I was home because I was with her when she passed. And I went to the grocery store, that same grocery store, after mom's obituary had appeared. And two of the clerks remembered mom by name. And I remembered them by name by mom's example. When I go into a grocery store and, I walk past somebody, I'll go, "Happy Saturday," or whatever day it is, or, "Hey, I love that color on you." And make a special point when I see grocery store workers, healthcare workers, police officers, of saying thank you for what you're doing. And they often, I get smiles and thank yous, and I feel better too. So it's a win-win.
I do that too. And the people are so surprised that I'm appreciating them. And it's like, you mean the other customers don't do that?
Right. Well, and along those lines, one of the things I've learned to do is recognize that, hey, guess what? They're people too. They might be having a bad day. They're allowed to have a bad day. Somebody on the phone, they're allowed to have a bad day.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier. Just let it go, for heaven's sakes.
The reason you got that person, I remember after the first brain injury, and I'd be on the phone with a customer service person, and I'd be really, really, really slow. But I understood. they probably had some kind of learning disability or a brain injury. So I'd just be really patient. But I suspect most people aren't patient. Everybody's in a hurry.
Right. Right. Yeah. And along those lines, Ali, and this is something else I've learned, in a hurry for what? One of the things that has really helped me, and it again was something that even got clearer when I turned 60, is why do I have this huge to-do list? Here's a wild idea, because those to-do lists, don't get done. Cut it in half and focus and finish. And if you don't get it done, forgive yourself and move on.
I actually teach people to make a to-be list. Who do you need to become? So then you can think new thoughts, which leads to new actions, which leads to different results.
Genius. I'm on a podcast with a genius. That's awesome. Yeah.
Real quick, I don't mean to take up your time, but the other really big thing I do that's different, my journal isn't about what I did. My journal is about what I love about me. And before I close my eyes every night, I write one thing that I love about me. And it's like I'm well over 1,000 because I do it every day. And if I'm not falling asleep, I'll then go back and take a random page and read all of them. Because we forget to love ourselves and love what we do and appreciate us. And if you're not loving yourself, nothing in your world can work. It's not possible.
Well, you got to fill your own tank up first before you can. That's one I learned with it the last couple of years, and it's made all the difference, is to take care of myself first, because if I don't, I'm no good to anybody.
Yeah.
And you said, oh, you sparked something else, and it went, perhaps it will come back. You were talking about journal. Oh, I know what it was. So a friend of mine, have you ever heard of automatic writing?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. She taught me this probably about 2 months ago. And so I no longer journal. I don't call it journaling. I turn on the theta waves on YouTube and I automatic write. And it's amazing what comes out. It doesn't read like a book report, It's what's really going on. And it just sparks creativity in so many ways.
It's coming from your heart, and your heart's what connects to the knowing. And that's a really big thing I teach. You start up here, you're thinking. And what are you thinking? You're thinking thoughts that aren't true, that aren't accurate, that aren't facts. And that does not connect to the universe. So people who are thinking aren't manifesting, because the universe only gives back what you put out. It's like, I used to sit at the computer, but I'd be sitting there and kind of fall asleep, but I keep typing. So then I'd look and see, oh, what did I type? It was automatic writing. Once in a while, it didn't make any sense at all. But sometimes it was like, absolutely makes sense.
Okay, so then, as long as we're kind of in this realm, let me share a story. Mm-hmm. So I, every night I do the prayer of, God, I want to know your will for my life and the power to carry it out. Mm-hmm. And I have to be real careful with praying, because it can turn into a bit of like, you remember the old Charlie Brown cartoons on television? And every adult was like, wah, 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 wah. Okay. I feel like my prayers can do that I can just be going, wah, 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 wah. So one night, this has probably been about 9 months ago, I said that prayer. And then I'm just kind of sitting there and quiet. And I heard 3 words: find the balance. And so now that's what I'm working on, finding the balance, because it's not it's not a process that ends. I don't find the balance and then I'm done, because balance is like this and it can change as everything changes. So I'm finding the balance, and it's just been an amazing part of my journey.
I think that's so phenomenal because I think so many people believe when they get older, they start losing their balance. And yeah, they get talked into it by their doctors. So
Yeah.
doctors asking, how many times have you fallen? And it's what you just said. If people are finding the balance in their heart, then their body's not going to be falling over.
Right. Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And you're also touching on something else, and you were talking about the thinking and the feeling and such. And I what this would fall too into the category of something that not a lot of people know, and that is I have a genius IQ. And well, and the thing is, at just about any time I tell someone that, then the next words out of my mouth are stupid. It's, and I have one friend who'll look at me and she's got a kind of a Southern drawl and she'll go, "Oh, you're the genius." Like, thanks. Yeah. But because I've relied so much on my head and my knowledge and things like that. And it's again been probably over about the last 9 months or so where I've begun to trust my instincts, my intuition, and that voice. I mean, one I remember was a high school friend I hadn't talked to in years. And just one day, and this has been probably at least 20 years ago, I got this caller. So I picked up the phone and I called her. And I said, "Hey, just calling to see how you're doing." And she goes, "Wow, it's my birthday." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. That's great. That's wonderful to hear." And we chatted some more. And she shared with me that she had been just diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, or a form of it. And then I was able to stay in touch with her more until she passed. And a logical Jane would have gone, "Well, why would I call her? I've talked to her in 20 years. We didn't even run around together in high school." But intuitive Jane went, "There's a reason I'm supposed to do this." And intuitive Jane is much more fascinating than logical Jane, because I don't know intuitive Jane as well.
Yeah, there's a company called Send Out Cards. I don't know how long they've been around, but I've been with them for a long time. Mm-hmm. And that's why it was started, because one brother got that nudge to call his brother and he didn't. And the brother died. So he said, "I don't ever want that to happen to anybody again."
Mm-hmm.
And started the company, and now it's real easy to send cards and gifts. And yeah, the nudge isn't coming from nowhere. It's you connecting, like your intuition. And I do a paper on the two voices, or a lesson on it. One is the Chad, I call it the commentator. It's your ego. And the other one is your heart. So when I meditate, I get all my messages like you were describing, calling your intuition. If there's something that I want to know, I usually ask and then meditate. But lots of times I just get messages of, "Oh, yeah, I did need help with that." So, yeah, it's always there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's, I don't know if you follow Richard Rohr, Rohr. I get his daily meditations, and he had one this week about the heart.
Huh.
And taking something you love about, taking yourself and putting it, literally touching your chest and feeling it in your heart, and then doing it with someone who you don't like or who you disagree with. And that is just so key. That is so key. I mean, yeah.
I just call it sending love. So if I'm walking around and I see somebody who wants to smile, and if somebody's not smiling, and I think, okay, there's a reason they're not smiling, I don't say anything. I just send them love. And people who are in relationships where they got bad stuff going on, they can actually clear the relationship just by putting out those thoughts of love instead of being all angry with the person. And you feel there, for every 5 messages that go heart to brain, only 2 go brain to heart. You got to live from your heart.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There you go. I learned something.
You
Yeah.
have to go see my latest episodes on my
Okay.
on the show page. Yeah. It's the only thing that makes sense because the highest frequencies are love and joy.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be out there if you want to attract that into your world. But most people are up there.
So that makes me think too that as I've become older, I've noticed that people tend to operate from one of two positions. One is there is enough, and that's love, and there isn't, and that's fear.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of my favorite metaphysical teachers is Dee Wallace, and I just read book after book of hers. I've interviewed her, I've talked with her, and that's exactly what she explains. So she has this whole list of things I do, don't, see a world that honors me, things like that. Because most people are coming from the fear, from the don't. Just look at the political scene today. Anybody who needs to control, they live in fear.
Yeah.
And they can only live in fear if they don't know love. They don't love themselves. And so they can't love anybody else. And so they think they need money. They think they need to control other people. They think they need to control the world.
Yeah.
And there are people like you and me and all the so-called light workers that are on the earth at this time. Is because they're all about love. I love the groups I belong to because everybody in there is just about love and sharing and caring. And they don't have to do this, be your authentic self stuff. They just are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not a different person online than I am in real life, but a lot of people are.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and to what you're talking about, I think about the fact I mentioned growing up in this political family, and we are all over the map, politically, emotionally, spiritually, educationally, um, and and yet we, I grew up with politics wasn't personal, you know. Um, you I remember one time I was a student body president at University of Idaho, and I came to Boise to lobby the legislature. And I went into a committee that one of my uncles was the chair, and there were these 2 men just going bah, 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 about this issue. I don't remember what the issue was, but they just went after each other, totally after each other on their positions, not personally, on their positions. And later that night, I went out with my uncle and some of his friends, and those 2 men were there, and they were chatting over a beer, you know?
Wow.
And I think about one of my cousins, and we're opposite politically, and his late wife, she and I were opposite politically, and we could go back and forth about politics. Boom, 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 boom. And then it would be, okay, so how are your grandkids? What book are you working on? What are you reading now? It was just simply another conversation, but it was never personal attack. And and it's I will tell you that that's one of the challenges I have, because I'm used to it not being personal attack, is how to deal with the personal attack and not to fall into personally attacking someone else.
Yeah, I vote early because I do absentee ballot just because I don't know if my heart's going to be okay to go vote or not. And I'm listed on a certain party, and every day I get volumes of mail. And the party that I support tells you the good things about them. But then I see all this mail coming from the other party that's just saying, oh, all those people did these bad things. They don't tell me what they're doing that's good. And I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, so along this line, I tell this story because I've run a number of campaigns in my life, and it's just about the kind of the whole general attitude of politics. And I remember I had run a campaign early in my life and early 20s, mid 20s, and won the candidate won and beat this longtime elected official. And about 15 years later, I'm going into the post office down on 13th Street in Boise, and I see this old Cadillac parked in front of post office. And there was a door open and there was an older guy sitting in there. And I went in, got my mail and came out, and he was still sitting there. And intuition said, go talk to him. And I went up to him and I said, are you okay? Well, he was confused as to where he was. And clearly wasn't able to drive. And he had a cell phone, and the cell phone in that day was that long and that wide. It was more like a mobile phone. And I asked him, where he lived, and he showed me his identification, his driver's license, and told me the phone number. And I called the wife, explained the situation, and waited for someone to come get him. It was the candidate who I had led the campaign and defeated him. And he was another human being. And it wasn't like I saw his name and went, I went, oh no, yeah, doesn't matter. And it didn't even, quite frankly, it didn't even cross my mind other than, wow, what a kind of serendipitous moment.
Yeah,
So.
it's like I like to smile because you feel good when you smile. It changes your chemistry. And I was walking down a sidewalk in New York City one day, and there was an older gentleman, and he just looked like he was in agony. He looked like he was hurting. And usually as I approach somebody and I'm smiling, they smile. And I was getting really close to him and he wasn't smiling. I thought, man, he's really feeling bad or really worried or something. And then when I got within 10 feet of him, he looked at me and he smiled. And I thought, wow, that might be the only smile he saw today. I just think it's important to share smiles. And I just always send love to people. You don't have to tell them you're doing it. They'll just suddenly feel better and they don't need to know why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Right.
You said earlier when we were talking, you were all one community. We're all one energy, actually, physically. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're doing to somebody else, you're doing it to yourself. If people would realize that, I think maybe there'd be a whole lot more intentional love going there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I thank you for being you. I think your loving, kind, generous energy and your knowledge and your presence makes a huge difference in everybody who is lucky enough to be able to work with you. They're going to be the better off for it. And because they are in a better place, everybody they know is going to be in a better place. And that's how we spread the love. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you. I mean, I love this. I love this. I love you. I love our connection. I love how we're all connected. And we can all learn. So
thank you for staying with us to the end of this very special edition of the Let's Get Metaphysical show. Remember, to join us as a member in our Patreon group so that you'll get special access to our Let's Talk live calls only for Patreon members, supporting the show so we can continue to bring it to you. And be sure that you check that link, contact me, so that you can get your copy of Two Voices, because there are two voices playing in your head. One empowers you, and the other one just messes everything up and keeps you stuck. Also, enjoy every moment. That's capital I-N, capital J-O-Y. Because nothing in your world is happening outside of you. Everything happens within, and quite frankly, within your heart.
You've been listening to a talk on the wilder side. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Get Metaphysical. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode, and while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every Monday for more exciting insights and wisdom on life beyond your five senses. Until next time, take a small step in a new direction. Start now.